Inflectional versus derivational morphemes, and specifically identifying. So as we discussed, morphology looks at the study of the constructions of words out of smaller units called morphemes. These morphemes can have either meaning or grammatical function. So the question is, how can we differentiate inflectional from derivational morphemes? There are six characteristics of inflectional morphemes that you want to know. Number one, they do not change the meaning or part of speech of the word they attach to. Notice how we have big, and then we take the ER and we have bigger, we have biggest. In each case, these are all adjectives. So even if you put the inflectional affix at the end of the word, it does not change either the meaning or the part of speech. Number two, inflectional morphemes are required by syntax. They typically indicate syntactic or semantic relations between words in a sentence. For example, Susan walks to school. So the S marks the third person singular present form of the verb, making it relate to the third person singular subject Susan. Notice how if I take this and I change to we, notice how the verb changes, right? So it looks like inflectional morphemes are required by other things outside of the word. Other words in the sentence can affect these inflectional morphemes. Number three, they're very productive. Typically, these morphemes occur with all members of a large class or morpheme. The plural morpheme s, for example, occurs with almost all nouns. Now, I know we have man and we have men and we have woman and women in syllabus and syllabi. There are exceptions, of course, but you can take the word s and you can put it at the end of many nouns. Book, books, TV, TVs, house, houses, and so on, right? They occur at the margin, at the end of the word, after any derivational morphemes. For example, the ing is inflectional and appears at the end of the word rationalizing, right? Notice at the very end. And there are only suffixes in English, so if you can remember these six things, you can probably identify when you're looking at either a prefix or a suffix, and for inflectional morphemes, we're only looking at suffixes, right? You know that they are inflectional if it fits these six characteristics. Now, to think of it another way, there's only 8. There are 8 inflectional morphemes in the English language, and here they are. He waits at the store, right? So you have the S. This is what's called the third person present singular inflection S. You have the ED as in he waited at the store. This is called the simple past tense inflectional ending. How about this? He is waiting at the store. The ing here, this is called the progressive or continuous inflectional ending. How about the ed here? Notice how this is different from the one up here. It says has waited, so this is the past participle inflectional ending. And then you have the S. Mary's bike is stolen. So the S here, this is called the possessive S inflectional ending. Then we have faster ER, right? This is called the comparative inflectional ending. We have fastest. Nalco has the fastest bike. We have fastest EST. This is the superlative inflectional ending. And finally, we have books. The S is the plural S inflectional ending. And that's it. These are all the inflectional endings in the English language, and each of these, they fit these characteristics I've already explained here. Identifying derivational morphemes may change the meaning or lexical category of the word that they attach to. So this is important. So let's take a look at one example here. So we have, on the one side, we have fail, marry, arrive. We have failure, marriage, arrival. So these affixes are changing. The first column, fail, marry, and arrive are verbs, and then based on the endings on the right, these words are all changing to nouns. So sometimes derivational morphemes, they can affect the lexical category of the word they attach to. In another way, we can say that derivational morphemes can also affect the meaning of the words to which they attach. Notice how we have extract, extrinsic, exoskeleton. So when this prefix is added to these words over here, it seems like it's changing the meaning to outside. So those are two key points you want to remember. Is derivational morphemes, either they affect the part of speech or the meaning of the words they attach to. Now the meaning is pretty easy. I'll give you a tip. Prefixes. Whenever prefixes attach to a root of a word in English, those prefixes will affect the meaning of the word in some way. In addition, unlike inflectional morphemes, syntax does not require the presence of derivational morphemes. They indicate semantic relations within a word, but no syntactic relations outside the word. For example, unhappy relates to un, which is not, to kind, but has no particular syntactic connection outside the word. Notice how I can say either they are unhappy, he is an unhappy person. So no matter what the subject of the verb is in the sentence, unhappy stays the same. Now in this next example, I want to illustrate an important point. Again, I said previously that inflectional morphemes are very productive. I gave the example of the plural s, which can attach to many types of nouns, many nouns. On the other hand, derivational morphemes are not very productive. They generally are selective about what they'll combine with. So here's one example. You have verbs which can take ABLE, for example, washable, usable, readable, and lovable. But yet it's a little bit strange to put the ABLE at the end of these verbs: goable, cryable, sittable, and dieable. So what's the difference here? So it looks like the ABLE, it looks like this particular morpheme seems to like transitive verbs, like wash, use, read, and love. All four of these verbs require objects. However, go, cry, sit, and die, these are intransitive verbs. And for some reason, this particular derivational morpheme, the ABLE, doesn't like to attach to intransitive verbs. So the point is derivational morphemes are selective. They just cannot be put at the end of a lot of words. They're very selective in the kinds of words they can attach to. There's a lot of conditions. Now you know some of the basic differences between inflectional and derivational morphemes.